Welcome, dear children, to a brand new video of science. So, in this video, we will learn about measurement and motion, and this would be the part 1 video for this lesson. In this lesson, we will learn about the story of transportation. We'll also learn about the measurement of length, the standard units of measurement, and how to convert from one unit to another. So, welcome to the story of transportation. In the olden days, when man had to walk long distances for days and months to reach places, he began to wonder how he could make this easier. And that's when people started using animals for transport. Animals such as horses, oxen, donkeys, and camels were domesticated, and they were used for carrying load as well as people across distances. In 3500 BCE, that is in present-day Iraq, the first wheel was invented. Interestingly, the first wheels were made for the use in pottery rather than as the actual wheels used for transport today. And they were without these spokes. They were made up of a solid piece of wood. It was only 300 years later that wheels were actually used in wagons and chariots and were actually tied to animals which could pull them. So much before the use of wheels in transport, people invented ways in which water could be used for transport. This began with the invention of the sailing boats in Egypt, and these were made up of bundles of leaves or wood that would float in water. And they were actually carved out of logs of wood too. These first ships were made in Egypt in 3200 BCE. And this went on for a very long period of time, and much later on, people started using wheels in wagons and chariots, which were then attached to animals and used to pull loads as well as people across distances. In the 1760s and 1770s, the first steam engine was developed by James Watt. He was a Scottish engineer as well as an inventor. And in 1783, the hot air balloons were invented. Hot air balloons allowed man to explore the high skies and also to travel greater distances by using the wind energy. In 1800s, the railways, which began with James Watt's invention of the steam engine, became well-established. Railway lines were laid across many places. And also the logs of wood which were used as boats improved greatly, and steamships were also invented, and this way water transport developed in a radical way. Between 1817 and 1819 came the invention of the bicycles, which were actually a very practical use of the wheel. Interestingly, the bicycle was invented almost 100 years after the invention of the steam engine. The first successful plane flight was made in around 1900s, and as you all know, the planes were invented by the Wright brothers, Oliver and Wilbur Wright. Now these days, we know about the space missions carried by space shuttles into space, and that is the timeline of transportation very briefly explained to you. Let's understand the concept of distance. Now, if you want to move from Pune to, say, New Delhi, which is your destination, there are several modes of transport that you could take. You could use a train, you could take a flight, you could also go by road using a bus or your own private vehicle. The distance that would be there to travel from Pune to Delhi for each of these modes of transport would be different because of the routes that are taken. Similarly, the time required for the journey would also differ based on the mode of transport, because each mode of transport has a different speed. So what can we understand about the word distance? The distance is the length of the path between the initial and the final position between two places. And this is what we call as a distance. Now let's see how we can measure and what is measurement. Measurement is something that is very important in every aspect of life. If you want to design a classroom, you require good measurements of the height of the classroom, the length, the breadth, the furniture that needs to be put in it, the windows. When you go to a tailor, the tailor needs to measure the size of your body so as to stitch a cloth according to your body measurements. When you go to the vegetable market to buy fruits or vegetables, when you go to the greengrocers to get food, you need to tell the greengrocer how much of fruit or vegetable you require, so that he can measure out the required quantity and give it to you. We also measure how tall you have become every year to see how well you have grown. Measurement is done using a known quantity, which is called as a unit. To measure a particular object in whatsoever way, we require a certain known quantity, which is referred to as a unit. Quantities that can be measured are length, mass, and time, and these are called as physical quantities. Now, if you need to measure the length of a pencil, say, which is of 10 centimeter, there are two aspects to this measurement: a number and letters, that is cm, centimeter. The number represents the magnitude or the amount of the known quantity, which is nothing but the unit in centimeters. So therefore, measurement has a known quantity as well as an unknown quantity. So 10 centimeter is basically an expression which means 10 times 1 centimeter. This is what we write as 10 centimeter. Therefore, measurement is actually a comparison between a known quantity with an unknown quantity, and it results from two parts, that is a magnitude, which is the unknown quantity, and a unit, which is the known quantity. Now, there are other ways to measure too, which were used in the olden days before people decided on units of measurement, on standard units of measurement. These are hand span, cubit, foot span, arm span or fathom, and pace or stride. You might have come across these units of measurement, which are not exactly the same from person to person in your math lessons in lower classes. So what is the problem with these units of measurement? These units of measurement are called as non-standard units of measurement because they vary from individual to individual. They do not remain the same. They are not reliable. A hand span is a unit of measurement. That is the distance between the thumb and the little finger of an outstretched hand. The foot span is the distance between the heel and the big toe of a foot. The cubit is the distance between the tip of the middle finger and the elbow of an outstretched arm. The arm span or fathom is the length between the outstretched arms, and a pace or a stride is the length covered in a single step while walking. So apparently it's very easy to make out that this would differ from person to person. A child's arm span or hand span would be much lesser than that of an adult. There are other non-standard units of measurement too, used in day-to-day life, like the angul, which is the length of the pointer finger, the fist or the mutti, which basically means a handful of uh, uh, which is commonly used non-standard unit of measurement in traditional recipes, a bowl or a stick, which or a stick which is easily accessible to you, can also act as your non-standard unit of measurement as long as you have it. Where can we use these non-standard units of measurement? You can use it in the playground when you play and you need to, say, measure out the pitch of your cricket field, or in day-to-day cooking to have an idea of how much of food you need to cook for your family. And in the olden days, these non-standard units of measurement were greatly used for all purposes, including the exchange or the barter system. The disadvantage of the non-standard unit of measurement, as we have already discussed, is that it lacks uniformity and it creates confusion, because the handspan, which might be 4 handspans for a child, would be different for another person. Again, these units of measurement, which are non-standard, can differ even between male and female, as have much larger hands and feet than women. Now let's take a look at our standard units of measurement. So standard units of measurement are measurements that have been standardized across the world to maintain uniformity in measurement, and this has greatly helped in the development of science. The International System of Units, or SI units, which is otherwise called as the Système International de Units, was established in 1960 by the 11th General Conference on Weights and Measures. So the scientists across the world understood that unless and until they had a common language, they could not share their research or work with each other, and therefore they came to terms as to what units would be considered as a standard unit of measurement for length, mass, time, and many other physical quantities. Such standard units of measurement are called as SI units. The SI unit for length is meter, and it is symbolized by a small m. SI unit for mass is kilogram, symbolized by kg. SI unit for time is seconds, symbolized by s. There are other international systems of units too. There are other combinations too, other than the MKS or the meter kilogram second system that we just saw. There is the CGS system, which is the centimeter gram second system, which is used mostly in Britain. It is a British system. And then there is the FPS system, or the foot pound second system also, which is used in certain parts of the world. Now, how can we convert? If you look at the different conversions or the units for weight, we have 1 quintal, 1 ton, 1 gram. If a farmer wants to sell his harvest would be measured in quintals. The amount of food, grains, or the vegetables which arrive at the wholesale market would be measured in tons per day, because it is coming from so many farmers. So 1 quintal would be 100 kg, 1 ton would be 1000 kg, and 1 gram is equal to 1 upon 1000 kg. 1 milligram is 1 upon 1000 gram, which would be the same as 1 upon 10 lakh kgs. Now, if you want to convert from quintal to kg, quintal being the greater unit, you need to multiply the quantity in quintal with 100 and then you would get your quantity in kilograms. And to do vice versa, to convert from a smaller unit to a larger unit, you always divide the number by the given unit. For example, if you want to convert a given quantity from kg to quintal, you would have to divide by 100. And if you want to convert from a larger unit into a smaller unit, you need to multiply by the number. For example, if you want to find out how much is 3 quintals, you will have to multiply with 100, that is 300 kg. And this remains the same for all the other units. The units of time are familiar to you. 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes, which is the same as 60 into 60 or 3600 seconds. 1 millisecond is equal to 1 upon 1000 seconds. Then comes units of length. 1 kilometer is equal to 1000 meters. 1 decimeter is equal to 1 upon 10 meters. 1 centimeter is equal to 1 upon 100 meters. And 1 millimeter is equal to 1 upon 1000 meters. Let's take a quick recap of what we have learned. Measurement is important in every sphere of life. Measurement is done for length, mass, time, temperature, intensity of light, and other measurable quantities too. Measurement includes two parts, a known part which is known as a unit and an unknown part which is called as the magnitude or the number. So the magnitude indicates the number of times the unit must be multiplied to get the measurement. Non-standard units of measurement such as cubit, handspan, footspan, angul, mutti, etc. were used in earlier times, but they were not reliable as they changed from person to person, and hence came the fixation of units which are called as the standard units of measurement. They are the fixed quantities for length, for mass, and for time, which is usually meters, kilograms, and seconds respectively. There are various SI unit systems other than the MKS or the meter, kilogram, second system. That is the CGS system, centimeter, gram, second system, and the FPS system, foot, pound, second system. As you can see, seconds is a unit that remains the same for time across all of these units. The unit of time remains the same in all these SI systems. For conversion from one unit to another, multiply to convert from larger unit to smaller units, and divide to convert from a smaller unit to a larger unit. And that brings us to the end of this video. I will see you again in the next video where we will learn about how